of withering injustice. It came at a joyous daybreak to end the long nights of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we come here today to dramatize this shameful condition. In a sense, we come to our nation's capital to cash a check. And the architects of our republics wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. They were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall after. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check. A check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we come to cash this check, a check which would give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this house to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizer drug of gradualism. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial injustice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It will be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And for those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam, and until now will be content, will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of this nation until the great day of justice emerges. But there's something that I must say to my people who stands on the worn threshold that leads them to the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, let us not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must ever conduct our struggles on the high plane of dignity and discipline. Yes. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights, meeting physical force with soul force. the marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. They've come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we should always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who's asking the deputies of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied. Long as the Negroes are the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied. Long as our bodies heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the city. We can never be satisfied. As long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one, we can never be satisfied. As long as our children are robbed of their selfhood and stripped of their dignity by signs stating for whites only, we can never be satisfied. As long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we're not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful. Some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from places where your first quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution, staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of created suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to Georgia. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities. Knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream. One day, this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold the truth to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners, will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. And one day, even this state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down